What's up, guys? So I recently posted a video showing how to remove stripped hardware. I wanted to start this video, I wanted to show how to swap the scales on the Spyderco PM2. I just got another one for the collection. This one is in S35VN, or more specifically CPM S35VN. And the previous owner has these cool carbon fiber scales on there, but I want to bring it back to the original brown G10 scales. All right, so in order to do that, I need to take it apart. So I took the pot clip off in the previous video. I do have some spare hardware. Hopefully these screws fit. I do believe these are Spyderco screws, but actually, well, it's a BladeHQ knife care bundle, the original pack here. I forget. I have a miscellaneous drawer of all kinds of stuff. They look like the screws. We'll find out if they work later. But first, obviously, you would remove the pocket clip, okay, which uses a T6 in this particular knife. Now I switched to a T9 for the rest of the screws here. 2 body screws and a pivot screw. So this is how you take off the scales. Just in case you haven't done this, plenty of people out there have played around with their knives, especially customizing. There's so many cool, you know, aftermarket scales and stuff these days for all these popular knives. So a lot of people are familiar with this. But just in case you aren't, this is how you do it. All right, take off your 2 body screws. And we have our pivot screw. All right, you can keep that kind of separate so you know the difference between them. So you can see we have our front 3 screws removed. The other sides are still there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and lift up here. We have our little tube, so be careful with that. We have our scale, we have our actual liner. All right, then we have our blade, our other liner, and the other scale. So here's a shot with the scale removed. I put the liner back here just so you can see how it works. All right, so there's our compression lock, which is a reverse liner lock essentially. All right, set that aside and take our blade off. All right, now be careful of those washers. There's a washer on top, of course a washer on the bottom. So there's our bottom liner and our bottom scale. I'm gonna flip it over, remove this hardware here. All right, so we have our body screw, and then they're really tight. Leave this kind of separate here. All right, then go ahead and get your pivot as well. All right, so it's pivot, body, and body. And of course the camera died, a very important part of this video. So anyway, so I popped the blade off here. All right, we have our other washer. All right, I put these pieces back in because I already take them off, but I realized the camera's dead. We have our piece here for the pivot. All right, there's a flat side on there, and you can see that there's 2 cutouts on either side. So that's not easily mistaken for these spacers here. All right, spacer on the back, which is a little bit longer, and then the other body spacer, which is a little bit shorter. And of course, we have our lanyard tube, okay, which you kind of pull out. These are usually pretty tight, so you have to kind of work that out a little bit. You could push from the other side as well. That makes it a little easier. All right, grab just a little lip there, kind of push out. So there we go. There's our lanyard tube spacer. All right, so now we're left with just the back spacer and of course our handle scale. So now you just want to remove the 2. All right, try to get your fingernail in there. Here's our back scale. All right, now we're just basically going in reverse. We take our back scale here, take our back liner, put the liner in. All right, I'm gonna kind of hold it there for a second because what I want to do is I want to put in my spacers and those screws, just kind of hold them in place. All right, so the longer spacer goes up here by the pivot. All right, it's a long one and a short one. You definitely know the difference. Take our screw. All right, it doesn't have to be super tight, but I do want to thread up a little bit here just to make sure that it's in. This way this one won't move while we're doing the other parts. Same thing with the other one. All right, just throw the screw in there. It'll grab a couple threads just so that they're not falling all over the place. Again, you can see the difference between the top one, which is a longer spacer, and the bottom one, which is a shorter spacer. All right, then I'm gonna go ahead and put on your washer. At this point, you could put a drop of oil. When I'm all done, I'm gonna go back and put some oil in it and work it in, you know, back and forth. But some people like to put it on right at this point now. So put your little washer in there. Then you're gonna grab your spacer for your pivot. This does have a flat end on it. Okay, let me zoom in and show you that real quick. See towards my thumb, that flat end? That flat end is going to correspond with a flat cutout that's inside the pivot. Okay, so you know if this is put on properly. All right, in this case it's pointing downward. I'm just going to put that through the washer, rotate it until it sits in place. Whoop. And of course I touch it and it pops back out. All right, so let's do that again. All right, right there. You know you have it because it won't be able to rotate. When you try to spin it, it won't be able to move because it's sitting exactly where it needs to be. All right, so back that out. I'm going to put my thumb over that to keep it in place. All right, and we're going to put our lanyard hole piece back in here, the spacer. Okay, this kind of just pushes in place, kind of snaps there. All right, then we're going to put this down on flat surface, get our blade back on here. All right, didn't mess with the blade much, so the top washer is still there. Of course, again, at this point, you could take the washer off, add more oil if you want. Doesn't really matter either way. So we're going to put that on top of our spacer. Make sure it goes all the way through, just like so. All right, so I zoomed in here. Then we're going to grab, of course, our top scale here. We're going to put our liner piece in there. Okay, just make sure it's pushed in, nice and flat. Turn the whole thing over and basically line everything up, just like you would imagine. Okay, so as I'm pinching this together as one piece, just going to push it all the way around. All right, at the base here, you can push through to make sure that our lanyard tube pops through. Once that pops through, it kind of holds everything in place here. All right, and then without moving it too much, you want to go ahead and put your pivot screw in. So grab your T9 here. All right, give this, make sure it's not cross-threading, give that a few turns. You don't have to tighten it down all the way yet. All right, take your body screws, put your body screws on this side. All right, at this point, you can tighten it just a little bit. All right, get your other body screw, and then flip it over, and then do your reverse pivot screw. Okay, so now at this point, the knife is loosely put back together. All right, now you want to go back and just make sure that your body screws are nice and tight. Don't strip them, don't go crazy with it. Sometimes people have the monkey strength. You just want to make sure they're nice and snug. Okay, nice and snug. Nice and snug. The back pivot you could put all the way down so it's nice and snug. All right, and check your tension here. Compression lock feels good. Tiny bit of side-to-side play. All right, so now I want to adjust that out on the front. Tighten just ever so slightly. No blade play at all, but still smooth. All right. So at this point, I usually oil my knives. Again, you know, people can do this while it's apart. Of course, you can throw some oil on either side of those washers. It's not going to hurt anything at all. I just do it at the end. But anyway, I'm using the BRS Hyper Oil, one of my favorites. While the blade is closed, I come in here, put a drop of oil. I'm actually lightly squeezing the bottle on the back end all the way across. And doing this side all the way across. Open the blade. And I do the same thing. I'm going to squeeze as I drag, so it's putting oil all throughout the pivot. Squeeze and drag. All right, and then on the back here, just a little on either side. And then I work it in. That's it. Disengage the lock. I'll hold the lock down so it doesn't engage. And just kind of work it back and forth. So the oil's kind of dragging all over the place. Obviously use gravity. All right. And then any excess oil that shoots out, you can of course, you know, wipe off if you need to. But yeah, I mean, super smooth. All right, flicks out easy, locks up perfect. And now we have the original. Let me get those fingerprints off there. But I have the PM2 in CPM S35EN with those original brown G10 scales. Now I just have to throw on the pocket clip. And although I would carry this tip up, I'm going to put it on how the factory sends them, which is tip down. This is just, you know, mostly for my collection. I will carry this a couple times. If I were to carry it frequently, I would put the pocket clip tip up just because that's what I prefer, like a lot of people. let's go ahead and see if this hardware does actually fit this Spyderco, which I thought it did, but we're going to find out in a second if it does. Switch over to the T6. Alright. Lift the pocket clip up, put one of the screws in like this, and put it kind of against the hole, spin it around. That's why I line everything up, just to make it easy. Alright, so make sure it's nice and snug. Grab another screw, put it on the tip of the driver. Alright, make sure that's lined up. Hold on, I have to see it in person. Okay, there you go, it's lined up. Pop it through. Screw it down, make sure it's nice and snug. And one more. Whoop. Glad that landed in my hand. Oftentimes I drop screws and I have no idea where they go. I mean, I don't even have carpet here. I have wood floors, but I still can't find them. Carpet, forget about it. It's gone. Alright, it's the same thing. Just make sure it's nice and snug. Alright, so pot clip works, even though we all want it tip up. that's how they arrive, right? And there you go. We have the original CPM S35BN Spyderco PM2 all done. So yeah, I mean, I really do like these carbon fiber scales. I think they're really neat. I just wanted to have the original package here for my collection, you know, for collection purposes. I do like this this look and feel even better. Even though there's some texture on here, it's nice to have this textured carbon fiber. I don't know if you guys have seen these before. They're super cool. So it is genuine, solid carbon fiber here. All right, especially like on the side, you can see sometimes you'll have a carbon fiber laminate where it'll be a piece of carbon fiber on top of G10, but you could see from the side here, it's solid carbon fiber. But then the top has this kind of checkered pattern, which is nice because it creates some grip. And it almost looks like G10. But yeah, that is pretty much it. So that is how you swap out the scales on a PM2. Again, there's so many aftermarket scales out there. This may not be the best way to do it. This is just how I do it. So I'm sharing my knowledge with you. Of course, you know, you can reference this to get an idea of where parts go. But like, you know, I put my second pivot screw at the end. You can, of course, put it, you know, on when you did the back body screws. I mean, the order doesn't really matter that much. The purpose of this video is just so you have a reference of where those pieces go. All right, the two spacers are different lengths, which make it really easy. The larger or longer one goes on top by the pivot. And of course the pivot, you know, little spacer piece there has the flat end on it. So it's not very hard or difficult to put these things back together. But it's a little daunting if you've never taken a knife apart and you got some cool aftermarket scales for your PM2 and you know, midway, you kind of go answer the phone or something or take a dump and come back and you're lost because you're like, oh man, where's this piece go? It's pretty straightforward, but I wanted to post this video just to show it so you have a reference in the future. If you ever get lost in the middle, you can always come back to this video and just see where you're at. So that is it for now. Also, big tip, get some spare hardware, even if you don't think you need it for your knives. If you carry Benchmades, if you carry Kershaws, if you carry SOGs, whatever you do, contact the company, see if you can get some spare hardware, some pivot screws, some body screws, because one day you might need it, especially if you take your knives apart, it may get stripped out. You know, that's the only time you're actually going to need extra hardware is if it gets stripped out. But it's just a good thing to have. In this particular case, I happen to have the screws for this this pocket clip, so I was able to replace them because the original ones were stripped. That's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comment section if you're rocking a PM2 or maybe even the smaller PM3 in your EDC. I love collecting these PM2s. They're just classic Spyderco. They're just, man, they are fantastic knives. They work well, they're super comfortable. They come in such a variety of different looks as well as blade steels and stuff. And if you don't know from previous videos, I'm trying to collect as many as I can with different types of steels and stuff. So this was just a trade I did and I wanted to get it back in that original configuration. And now I have a set of CF scales or textured CF scales for one of the ones that I'm going to EDC. So like the regular CPM S30V ones, those, you know, maybe even the most common of the PM2s, those are the ones I actually EDC. Occasionally I'll try one of these other ones, but really it's for my collection. So that's it for now. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.